one of the things that's really helping me is trying to hold all of it more loosely, which was absolutely not me before. I had a death grip on my life, and the world only turned because I was cranking it all the time. I was convinced of that. You know what I mean? So that's the bit where I think having a baby like knocks you on your ass. Like I breastfed exclusively.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I literally have to let go of so many things because I have to keep you alive. There's, in that moment, I felt like there's no one else but me who can do this. And I was so angry about having to let things go and not being able to just like keep everything that I wanted to stay exactly the same the way I wanted it. If I just hold on tightly enough, nothing will change, And then when I couldn't and it changed, it felt like failing. And now I think after having seen two small humans change so much all the time, it made me, I don't know, more comfortable with change, but like accept how real change is and how much things are changing all the time.
Help Me See is a podcast dedicated to the art of seeing. It's a space for the restless visionary with an insatiable desire to create the life and work you're meant for. My name is Bianca Mora, and I'm a photographic artist, a mother, and a coach who's transformed my fear of loss into power, art, and philosophy. One of the scariest quotes I never want to say is I wish I knew at the time. But I truly believe that we have the innate ability to bring our wise 2020 hindsight to our now. You can deeply experience your nostalgia now while it's actually happening with no regrets. All you have to do is see. In this show, we laugh, we cry, we get inspired, we overshare. We have life-changing conversations around making meaning, self-discovery, and shedding all of the BS layers in order to reconnect to our own sacred vision. Seeing yourself is an essential key to living powerfully. You are the vessel, the lens that filters absolutely everything in your life. What are you filtering for? Whether it be conversations with fellow artists and visionaries or my solo audio journal style introspective ramblings, each episode is meant to feel like an exhale, an unraveling of truth, a moment for you to be able to put your finger on something that you haven't been able to for far too long. Come exactly as you are. It's perfect. Honor your instincts. Let's uncover some of the most important things in our lives, which all too often can slip out from our view. Let's commit to seeing and consciously creating what only you can in your one and only life. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Help Me See. Today, I am so humbled and happy to bring to you a conversation I had with a dear client and friend, just someone that I feel so lucky to know. Her name is Janelle Thomas, and she goes by Lady J. She is an incredible singer, and she performs alongside her husband Felix and other talented musicians in the Dubai music scene. Today, we talk about what it means to be an artist and a mother and a human being in this world. We have an extremely honest and candid conversation about the before and the after, being in your craft and what it feels like and what it is like, and then what happens after your whole world is shook with the birth of your children. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, the everything. Janelle came into my world a couple years ago, and I remember feeling so blown away that I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm able to connect with someone on the other side of the world. And when she would so deeply and vulnerably share, I would think, oh my gosh, I have so much in common with someone all the way around the world. Oh my gosh. Anytime that I'm holding space with Janelle, I'm reminded of the deep and profound value of what it means to connect with each other and to come together in community and just being honest and sharing our truths, not only for the benefit of others who might glean something or feel less alone, but also to to speak those words, lighten that load from your own chest. I really, really, really enjoyed my conversation with Janelle, as I always do, and I know you will too. I encourage you to go check out more from her. She has very exciting things coming up, including a sharing of the very specific, intentional, amazing resources she uses, whether it's a great find on YouTube or an educational energy expelling toy or whatever it is. She is a mama of two very energetic young boys, and I know that life. And any recommendation that she has had for me has been like the obsession of my house for basically months. So I have the inside scoop that Janelle is now going to start compiling all of these super well thought out and tried and true resources that she integrates into her life as a mom and working musician. Go ahead and follow the link in her bio, sign up for her newsletter so you can stay in her world. I promise nothing but yumminess and gratitude will come from it. Okay, without further ado, here's my conversation with Janelle.
Hi, I'm super excited to be here. This is, yeah, being on the other side for me after listening to your podcast for a year. It's so exciting. So I'm Janelle, and I work with Bianca, as in she's been coaching me for a year plus. I'm a full-time singer and a full-time mom. I have two boys who are 3 and 6, and my husband and I are musicians together. We've been doing that for 18 years full-time. We're both from Canada, but we live in Dubai. And I am trying to figure out how to be a full-time mom and be a full-time artist and be a full-time entrepreneur and not lose my mind. So that's
And a
why
full time person.
and a full-time person.
She was like a couple of weeks ago. I put the call out. I'm like, hey guys, I'm tired of talking to myself on the podcast. So any artist, especially artists, want to come on and talk about everything and anything. And Janelle, she was like, I don't know if this is weird because we work together now, and blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not fucking weird. What's weird? I challenge you to weird
Exactly.
me out. So we just before I hit record, Janelle was just talking about how she just doesn't feel good and how, what's going on and just like business stuff and how as at the time of recording, we're sitting down. She's like, yeah, and I'm kicking myself because I have 2 hours left and they're coming back and I didn't accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Gasp.
Yeah. And I literally had one of your former podcasts on rest running through my mind also,
Mm,
being like, yeah, I don't, have a cold, I feel under the weather. So I meant to sleep, but instead ended up just scrolling through my phone for 90 minutes. But then wondering, but was that productive rest? If then I get up and I'm in like butt kicking mode because now it all has to happen in the next
mm-hmm,
120 minutes before
mm-hmm.
two little tornadoes like come through the door to distract me from everything else that I need to do in my life.
Well, you did say that after your phone call, you're like, yeah, and then I just wasn't tired anymore because you
Yeah.
probably had your creative juices flowing and you were just energized by like thinking of possibility and whatever, and then off to the races, and you can't exactly schedule your creative impulses or your inspiration.
No, no. I am in awe whenever I learn about a musician who, or any kind of artist who did.
Mm-hmm.
There are some artists who are super methodical. Like, um, we had taken our honeymoon in Barcelona, which is like full of
Mm,
art by Gaudi, and he was super methodical about it. He woke up at the same time every day and he ate like the same breakfast type thing,
mm-hmm.
and he would just sit down and he would make art from like 9 to noon and then take a little break and then do it
Mm-hmm.
again. And that is so amazing to me that anybody would be able to have that be their process. And I'm so jealous because I wish I could have that now. I
Mm,
would love for it to be like, I've dropped the kids off at school. Now is my art time,
uninterrupted space.
uninterrupted. And it's
Mm-hmm.
going to start now and it's going to continue for 120 minutes and then I'm going to turn it off,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's one of the things I think that I find hardest about um, becoming a mom and continuing to try to make art in a regular way is
Mm-hmm.
that the way that I used to work doesn't work anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And even after 6 years, or my oldest is 6.5, like, yeah, I still haven't really figured out the new way that that needs to work. And one of the things, obviously, that is like the enemy of work is interruptions, right? And that when you have small kids, your life is just like constantly being interrupted. I mean, I think anyway, when you're an artist and an entrepreneur trying to do those two simultaneously,
Mm-hmm.
your work is already interrupted a lot,
Yeah.
because you're trying to be in the zone. And then if the phone beeps with a job, and someone needs something urgently, you do have to all of a sudden switch into like admin mode. So that's hard. And then to have two people like pulling your elbows going, mommy,
Mm-hmm.
mommy, mommy. Yeah, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
help to have, those long unbroken stretches. I think for me, it takes me a long time to like sink into
Get
the,
in the flow.
in this, yeah, in the flow.
Yeah. Even if
I
you
wish I
have
could.
like an hour chunk, it's like, what do I do? Just swan dive into, speaking of interruptions, I'm starting to hear something going on above me, but no tears. Um, when you have those little pockets of time, it's like, it's not that you automatically sink into deep work, like within 5 minutes, of course not. And then also it is a very specific dynamic when you're doing this full time and there's this endeavor going on where you're wanting to create like income from the work. So that's just like this other dynamic, this other sometimes it feels like impossible. Just speaking of impossible, I'm gonna pause the pod. You know what did me in? It was the are you still watching? Son of a bitch. I put the TV on and it was going to the next episode and I goes, "Are you still there?" So I like walk up and there's Cheetos all over the couch and I'm like, and look at the TV. I'm like, that's why this erupted.
Mm. Deal with the Cheetos and the vacuuming later. Mm,
It's okay. The uninterruption thing
right.
is so hard, especially if you happen to be one of those lucky individuals that might have any special form of like ADHD or, whatever. It's even more difficult. But I don't know. I've like come across some beautiful accounts that show, some artist mothers that do a really beautiful job of weaving their children in their work. And not me. I can It's like I'm able to do it from a space of if I'm photographing them. But to be honest, that doesn't happen often. I mean, I'm sure your kids get a kick out of you guys playing instruments or something, or they want to touch your instruments, but then there's like, wait, don't fuck it up, don't break this. Like whenever my kid wants to grab my camera, I'm like, um, and I don't know. I guess we can rewind a little bit before you had kids, when you were about to have kids. What ideas did you have about what it would look like to be a artist mother?
Yeah. Not many, to
Not many
be
ideas.
honest. No.
Hmm.
I think in general, um, like I put off having kids for a long time because I wasn't sure that I wanted to have kids. I wasn't sure that that was the path for Felix and I. So Felix and I were together, well, I can't do the math right now, but like 11 years, I think, before we had kids. And for 10 of those years, it wasn't even a conversation, you know? And then when I was 37, I just kind of went, oh, geez, like there is a, not that I really was feeling it, but kind of read about it and thought, well, yeah, I have a biological clock. Like this will have an expiry date if it's something I want to do. So I need to think about it as a maybe. And kind of went, well, what do you think? And he was like, well, you know that I want to, but only if you want to. And oh, okay. So that was literally how we started. Like it wasn't some dream coming true. You know what I mean? It was, it just, yeah, yeah, it was the thing I felt, if we don't do this, I feel like we will have missed out on something, was where I came to in my mind. And then because I was already 38 by the time I was trying to get pregnant, I did a ton of research on like how to get pregnant if you've waited a long time, basically. So the Impatient Woman's Guide to Getting Pregnant, totally recommend that. And 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 then thankfully we got pregnant with no problems, you know. Um, so but I realized literally a week before Theo was born, which to my credit was a month before he was due because he came 3 weeks early. But it wasn't until that point that I literally went, like, I've only researched the pregnancy and how to get pregnant and how to stay pregnant and how to stay pregnant healthy, and nothing else. And I literally went like, in a month's time, I'm gonna have a baby. What do I do? And because I'm away from home and my family and like none of my friends had kids out here, none of that. So we really, really were alone, which has its advantages because nobody's giving you their opinion about what they think you should do. So that's great. But at the same time, I was like, man, I haven't even held a baby pretty much in 20 years. And even then, I was never a baby person. So I really did not have any kind of plan or any kind of vision of like being a mom, let alone really like being an artist and a mom. So when he was born 3 weeks early, I just had this feeling of like, I'm not ready yet. All the books said 40 weeks. You told me 40 weeks. I need my 40 weeks. I'm
What
not
the
ready.
fuck? I've been shorted 3 weeks?
Changed 3 weeks. Not ready. The car seat was not installed. We were not ready, you know? Um, and that is one of the things that ultimately, like, it's one of the, again, something that was so hard for me, but ultimately I have learned to see as a blessing because it's something that I needed to work on, is you need to get ready. You know what I mean? Like if you're not ready, it's coming. So you just have to figure it out when it is now like thrust upon you. And in the intervening years since, like something that I'm really only coming to realize now through like my podcast listening journey is how much I think until now, really in so many ways, like I just moved through the world as a small man, not really as a woman. And so I think if there's anything about my motherhood that I thought was that I'm going to keep doing all the things that I've done and I'll
Mhm.
just have a baby on the side.
Mhm.
But I am going to be the same. I'm not going to be one of those moms whose Instagram feed turns like into just pictures of her kids. And, I'm not going to be one of those people who can't talk about anything besides her kids. Like all of that, yeah, totally didn't happen because I just felt this, like I will have this baby and this baby will come out and then this baby will be external to me,
Mhm. Mhm.
and my life will go on and I will
Mhm.
continue on the trajectory that it's on. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, spoiler, like not the case at all,
Twist.
where right, every bit of your life changes and every bit of your like biology changes. Those were
Mhm.
things, if I could go back, I would be like, maybe look into a little bit of research, like do some research there, dude, about what else will happen that will now stick with you for the rest of your life.
To your body, to
Um,
your brain.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like more anxiety. That's really fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
That some, before I think I was just like I would have categorized myself as a worrier and
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
planner,
Mm-hmm.
and it took those aspects of my personality and was like,
Exploded them.
exploded.
When
So
you said
now,
before, you said you've gone up until that point, you had gone through most of your life. Did you say as a small man?
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
mean? Like, what do you mean by that? Elaborate. And then, like, what's the contrast?
Well, I think that I mean, I'm really lucky that I grew up with, um, my parents both really encouraged me that anything a boy can do, you can do, and probably
Mm,
better.
mhm, mhm.
That remember I had this. It's totally dating myself, of course, right? Like I had this pin, those pins used to have the big ones, and it was Smurfette winning a race of Smurfs, and it said, "Girls can do anything," and that was like I was had that on my school bag, and I would put it on my coat, and that
It
was
was almost like a tattoo.
right.
If I could have, I would have tattooed that.
Just put it right in. I probably still have it like in a box somewhere because it was just that was like the credo, um, which was great and very empowering. But at the same way, I don't think it really like that was all that I mean, that was grown up in the 80s, it was just that was the kind of feminism I think that was around is that you just do whatever they can do, you know, you stay neck and neck with that. So certainly when I came to this work, which I've been doing for 18 years, I started
Let's
out
work as a
I joined
performer, right?
as a performer on this circuit because I had done some work as a performer before, but like being a
Mm-hmm.
singer in these top 40 bands where we
Mm.
used to, it's not like that now, but we used to be in a small team. So it was always our band of 5, 6, 7 people, and we would travel the world. So we do these extended contracts in Asia and in the Middle East. And so a hotel would hire us and then they'd accommodate us and fly us out and we perform 6 nights a week and we'd just be this little team the whole time. So I joined somebody else's band when I did that. And it was just me and the guys. And that was kind of nearly always the format. So right away, I was very much like thrust into this, very male environment where like I remember after my first contract, I went home and all my friends said, "Oh my God, you swear so much now." And I was, do I? I don't know. I hadn't noticed, but it was those kind of, you know, changes. Like at the same time, as I'm very much brought in to be like this sexy girl fronting the band and shaking all the bits and everything like that. But behind the scenes, I had to be able to hang and also too being in Asia, being in the Middle East, places where the expectation of what a woman would be able to do from a business sense was different. Like I really felt like I had to be the toughest guy in the room a lot of times, so I had like a bone crushing handshake that I actively put on because it was just, I know you saw me on stage and you're thinking one thing, but now if you want to talk business, like I'm all business. I'm just testosterone and that's it.
So interesting. So
Oh.
interesting.
so, so not only was I a small man, I was like a small, aggressive chip on the shoulder man, like, just super tough. Um, and it worked. Like it got me gigs, it kept me in charge. But I realized too, like I was never soft. And I like when I would just be like, no, don't come to me with your feelings. Like I just don't care about that kind of stuff. And I realize now I did myself a disservice. Like I would have been a better leader had I been more compassionate to my team members. So apologies, former team members, for the fact that I was, an asshole a lot of the time. Um, but for me, that was how I knew to like get
Hmm.
by. And I think
That
I
was
carried
that
that.
like your like survival mode? Did it feel in the moment like if you try to go back there instead of the hindsight vision now, like did you feel like this is like me putting on a front because I feel like this is truly what I have to be doing? Or was it at that point so ingrained because it had been so long that it was just so natural to you and it just felt like your reality in that moment? Like in those moments, did you feel like, oh, I'm trying to do this, or did you just feel like, yep, this is my way of life now?
I think yes to both. Like it started out being because like my first contract was in Oman, which was a country I'd never heard of until I went there, and was a country certainly where basically women didn't go to bars. So it's not only that I would be the only girl in the band, like I kind of would be the only girl in the room, you know. So I very much felt I need to find a way to manage this. And that by being very girly and very soft was going to get me like groped and, verbally abused all the time. So instead I went the other way of like, I will punch you in the face if you were rude to me, and that was very much the shell that I had on. And and that worked. And that at the beginning may have been an effort, but I think also was something that I really leaned into. It was, I kind of was coming out of being, well, felt like I was coming out of being like a real people pleaser. And, that was also too how I'd grown up, like the A+, never make a mistake, don't disappoint your parents, like that whole kind of vibe that I know you know very well. And so then to be on this other side, be like, well, I'm going to, drink more tequila than anybody else, and I will arm wrestle you, and I don't even care. Um, was nice. Like it was nice to put that on for a while. And then I think after a while it did mellow, but ultimately at its base it was like, no, but this is who I am now. I'm just not that people pleaser who cares about your feelings. That's gone. Um which it hasn't. Again, another spoiler. But it it wasn't certainly what I would show, or wasn't even really what I was aware of in a lot of ways. And then, so that was where I was. I was there and I became a mom. And I thought, but I'm just like, I'm the one who, who's going to stay up till 5 o'clock in the morning. And yes, I do have this like mom side to me, because especially, my husband Felix and I together being like the leaders of the band, we were always the ones in charge, and we made the rules, and we also were the ones who like hosted Christmas dinner and did all those things for our bandmates who were away.
You're
So
like,
we were
we were
already kind of,
basically mom and dad to a band, so
we
this
were,
is just another
we
mom
were.
and dad situation, right?
Exactly. And that's how it felt. It was like, well, no, we don't want to do this. We'll just like have actual children now instead of, grown up, badly behaved ones. But like, um, we worked with lovely people. I'm teasing. Um, but then, and then you become a parent and you're just like, yeah, all my theories on parenting are gone, so that's gone. And then you become a parent to a second one, in fairly close succession, because our boys are 2.5 years apart. And then you throw it all out a second time. Like that didn't work, and now what are we gonna do? Um, so for me, I feel that after 6.5 years of being a mom, there's a whole I think in my frustration in the last 2 years of the things in my life that aren't working and going as smoothly as I want to, um, as I start like peeling away the layers, and I think peeling away the layers of like everything about you that's not working for me. You know what I mean? Like you as in my kids, my husband, my people I work with, whatever, that ultimately it's like, okay, but what about me is not working for me? And, um, one of the things that I heard just recently, I just found it super impactful, was like this bit about like that we move through life as if we're a small man, but we are women, like, and our biology is different and our needs are different, and um, the things we can bring to the table are different. And that before that, I certainly, like, literally before listening to this person say that this actually is what this wave of feminism is about. It's not just about like figuring out what do I want and need as a woman. It's also insisting that you have support for that.
Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Neha. She's Mother Untitled, I think, is her Instagram page and website, and all
Oh,
this. I heard
cool.
her on a podcast. Yeah. So that's where I am, is now realizing that I think it felt like I was brought up that, you have to be, you can do everything that a man can do. And now I find myself totally reevaluating that. Like, what do I want to, after all this time? And does it work for me to do life like that? So the answer is no, but the solution is like question mark. I don't know, So that's where I am now, is trying to figure out, well, if not that, then what?
Mm. Yeah, I just saw something online the other day that was like, oh, yay, women's rights. We get to go back to work and still go home, feel so guilty that we weren't 1000% with the kids and also cooked dinner. And then like, yay. What? We
We
fucked up
made
a good
it. Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, it's funny. I remember even in college, I've always had this odd relationship with my interpretation of what I've witnessed as feminism, in
Mm.
different ways. And in college, I remember someone asked me once, well, don't you like, what do you think about being a woman photographer creating work in this world, like as a woman? And I'm like, but isn't, in my experience, obviously not dismissing any sort of everything about feminism and what it has done and the people that have really taken on those responsibilities to fight for our rights. But also, to me, isn't the point of the feminism like the outcome so that I don't have to do that? I don't want to have to think about the initial lens that I'm coming through is like, I as a woman am making this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't
Yeah.
want that to even be a thought in my head. So I don't like to focus on that. And I think that in many ways, in my experience of motherhood, that's taken me by surprise, is I feel the same way about that. It's like
Mm.
unavoidable. Like, of course, it is like fully part, not part of my day. It is my life. Like I
Yeah.
keep two kids alive and blah blah blah. And also I find myself not wanting to come from this lens of like I am mother and then everything else. I just
Yeah.
get so sick of talking about, I never wanted to talk about the milestones, but also I felt so compelled to, in a worried way, to make sure that everything is okay whenever someone was talking about it, but I wouldn't seek it out myself. Or, it's like this idea of, um, wow, I've never linked it to feminism, like that idea, but it really in my body feels very similar. It's like, I know this is such a huge part of my identity and I don't want it to have to be
Yeah.
in that way. Like, can I just be in this and like be the mother and not be labeled a mother? Like, not that there's
Yeah.
anything wrong with that label, but like, I just don't, I want to just be in the work. I don't want to think about like what it means to be this. And I feel like that can sound like triggering and I maybe misunderstood and taken the wrong way. Um, but I don't know. Like, what do you think about that? I don't even really know what
I
I
I
just.
totally I totally get that. And I think I had that same resistance to like not doing any research to be what it would be like to actually have a baby. You know what I mean? Because I
Mm.
was like, no, I don't want to be one of those women with the stack of books, what to expect when you're expecting, and like to have read all those, and the milestone thing. Nope, didn't do it either. People are like, you gotta download the app. No, I'm
No.
not. I'm yeah.
But what's so funny
Um,
to me is that we seem to end up like in a similar spot. But we both came to it very differently. Like you were like up until the ninth hour, like I don't really even know if I want to have kids. I was like my whole life, like I wanted to have kids. Like I can't wait to have kids, and we like tried to have kids, and all of a sudden, when I had the kid, serious postpartum depression and anxiety, and I
Okay.
don't even like I love you clinically and I don't understand. This is not who I thought I would be as a mother. Like I thought I had visions of me just sitting on the carpet of my nursery with my cup runneth over, just like sitting there staring at my child, just I don't know, moving a little bit,
Existing.
existing. And I'm like, I am so wildly bored and I can't even understand. This is not what I thought it would be. So yeah, I don't know.
I think, and this is the struggle, right? And I think that there's a part of it which is a personal struggle because we all have our journey to figure out that balance of like how much is me, how much is motherhood, how much is artist, how are those going to fit on a given day. But then one of the things I'm realizing too is there's also all this um, socialization, and obviously there's the culture of motherhood. Like when you mentioned, yay, we get to go out and like work full time, and then we come home and we're a full time mom. Like, but that's what we grew up trying to aspire to, right? Super moms, like super moms, they're the best. They work full time and they're it's what captain of the PTA, what's it called? Like, I mean, when you're in charge of it, that's not it. It's the wrong word. But like
Captain. Let's go with that.
captain of the PTA. They're, baking the perfect cookies and decorating the house and buying presents for your mother-in-law and all of this. All of it at 100% perfection. Like it just, of course it doesn't make sense. The math doesn't check out,
It doesn't math. No,
it
it
doesn't
doesn't
math.
math.
So it's not going to work. And then that's left a lot of us then feeling like we're failing, right? Or like we missed something. We didn't get the memo. And um yeah, and then good old like North American guilt about that, about the failing and that we're bad moms or bad workers or that somewhere we failed. Um, so I think that I totally agree with you. That idea of like I don't want every um, bio that I put out to like start with mom and this, but at the same time I feel I do put it in my bio, because I also feel like, but and maybe it's also exacerbated because my kids are small, but that's my life. Like I don't wake up because I want to. I wake up because someone is like whacking me between the eyes telling me they are ready to start the day. They need something, and it will be like that for years still. So that also is my reality. And obviously when I start my day like that, like that's kind of the lens through which I proceed with the rest of my day is through the constant, like relentless needs of small humans. So it is hard to be anything else but, like as you say, it is our lives. And then yet we still also are people who want to just be us or just be artists and have like 6 unbroken hours to create something and think about things. And yeah, and clearly, like as you can hear, it's the trying to make that fit, the puzzle pieces fit, that is making me slightly insane. But
Yeah, because then it's never gonna fit neatly, and there's always so many there's so many other separate institutions that even if we're coming such a long way in global consciousness now, and like how the new feminism is redefined as like the softer kind of thing, and like this like demanding of like support and like no, I will share my truth, and yet there's also very real things like like the costs of childcare right now and the traditional hours of that. I love how
Yeah.
you, with your lifestyle, like, yeah, my kids stay up late because this is literally how I survive. The human body needs sleep, and
Yeah.
my job requires this. So therefore, my family does this right now in this season. And yeah, I do find myself feeling that that way at times. I think it's softened. I'm not as triggered because I just feel a little bit I don't know, the sharpness fades a little bit as
Mhm.
I think as you gain your, confidence in your what you're doing, but then those moments of like struggle or doubt that you feel tender, I get really sharp and angry about so many things. Like when I had the postpartum and I'm like, people call this baby blues. How dare? Like, how
Yeah.
dare
Yeah.
everyone and no one? I was so angry at everyone and no one at the same time. And then, like, now, as I'm trying to live my truth and not sacrifice, I don't believe I must sacrifice the work I want to make in this world in my lifetime, my one and only lifetime, like the art, the message, the whatever, and sacrifice it for my kids. But I also don't want to choose it over my kids at the same
Mm.
time. So it's like, I'm so frustrated with like the institutions that have been set up, but of course, and everything takes time to catch up. And of course, now it's like I find myself looking into unschooling, which I don't really want to do because I
Yeah.
don't think I'm particularly patient as I thought I would be as a mother. So it's like, so I'm just like sitting here, like trying to grasp at like ways of living and being and mothering and arting, whatever, that I don't even see as examples. And the only thing that I can do to help is to share the shit show of what it is, honestly, and before I have it formulated, um, just to try to normalize this, like, what the fuck are we doing? It's okay. We're all confused together.
Yeah.
We're all
Yeah.
confused together. I was just saying, I don't think I've posted, maybe it was privately on Vox or whatever. I feel like we're in this weird limbo of a lot of people are sharing more honestly, which is beautiful, but still
Mhm.
vaguely. So it's like, oh, I'm doing really well as a stay-at-home mom, but it's like you don't really exactly know the numbers that's going on, or
Right.
oh, I get frustrated sometimes, but and it's like glazed over. But I'm like, oh, when I say get frustrated, I growled like a dog at my child, and now he growls at me. So it's like I think like speaking to the specificity is the most serving thing we can do for each other. And I think that's why, as you said, that we put mother in our bio. And even though you're not exactly wanting to put all the focus there, but it's kind of like, I know that that's my like, caw. I know that whoever is also like, we're immediately on like a similar plane. Like we just
Right.
get it. Like if someone's
Yeah.
having a shit show in the grocery store, like I just wish it would was appropriate for me to just go over and help and like like let me try. Like I get it. I see
Right.
you. I'm so sorry this is happening right now.
Yeah.
My kid's at home, but don't worry. I've experienced this.
Yeah. I'm you. Yeah.
I'm
On
you.
another day, I'm
I'm
you.
you on
Yeah.
another day. Yeah.
Well, and I think it's part of why, you know, I felt like and continue to feel so comfortable with, your coaching is because aside from the art and person and the way we just think a lot on the same wavelength, that when I'm like, you know, like you're in the trenches as well with two small boys, you get it. Yeah, Cheetos on the couch. Like I'm like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
can
had to
smell them. You know what
actively
I mean?
force myself to stop saying, "Oh my God, me too," because I'm like, this is just really ridiculous at this
Right.
point. Like anytime something was shared that was like, this might sound weird or whatever, I'm like, oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like you said, it's so helpful that there is a normalizing of let's talk about the hard parts, and any of the mom accounts that I follow or podcasts I listen to are certainly people who are willing to talk about the mess and how hard it is. Like I'm not interested in Pinterest perfect nurseries at all. Like I need to see, I need to see you crying. It sounds terrible. You know what I mean? But like I appreciate that when people are able to be vulnerable and to share. And I think that's also why I put mom in my bio and and as many places as it is. And even the decision like on my professional page, because actually my like all my all my meta stuff got hacked last year. And so it was an opportunity for like a reboot. And I really did wonder, um, is this appropriate for me to be having? Like I'm a performer. At that point, certainly most of the singing I'm doing is like restaurants and lounges. It's not anywhere kind of like family environments. This is where people are coming on their night out, even if they are parents. So are they wanting to hear about like my teaching my kids to swim at the pool or whatever? You know what I mean? Like it just felt like maybe this should be more separate. And that just ended up feeling really unnatural. I found it a struggle to post things, to find things to say. I felt like I had to choose my words so much. And um and also too, as much as it's like a call to people, like where are my people, where's my people at? Like, hit me up, show me that you
Yeah.
you understand me.
Repelling as well.
It also is a repelling, and it
Mhm.
also was me wanting to tell people, like, if you come to work with me, you need to know that these are
Mhm.
the parameters also.
Mhm.
So things like messaging me at midnight and saying, I absolutely must have it before tomorrow morning, like, not going to happen. It's just, that's your emergency. It cannot be mine
Yeah,
because I
like,
need to go to bed.
the focus inevitably comes to, I cannot be more concerned with, like, what they want to hear or might not want to hear than what I feel I have to say. I want
Yeah.
to say this. Like, this is something that needs to be at the forefront. I'm curious, uh, if you want to talk about or if you wanna share, there was a pivotal point in which you were like, "No, I am going to start prioritizing myself in this, not at the expense, like, not choosing over, but I am putting here is the pot, and I am making room for this block that is me, in this puzzle or whatever, pot, puzzle, I don't know, block. I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but you get it. And I believe that was around the time that we ended up meeting in Nostalgia Now or whatever. I don't know if you want to share about that because I think that also at that point in time it sounded like this intersection of like, this is such a huge part of my life, and also, but what about my artistry and also my self-care, and hello, I'm a person, I need space, and what does that look
Yeah.
like?
Um, that was probably about a year and a half ago now. Um, so actually, I think it started when our eldest started school. So uh, we have a nanny, which is just kind of the way childcare culture works out here. So she's been with us since he was 3 months old. And we're very lucky. We've had the same person throughout. And she's always been really flexible. So basically, she's here when we go to work, of course, because we work together like all the time. Um, and then we had a pandemic. You may have heard of it. Um, and so then we were like home because we were completely out of work for 10 months. And at that time, I was pregnant and had a second child, and we figured out how to be a family of four and me not completely lose my mom. Um, and then we went back to work, and that was okay. And then our eldest started school, and he'd not done any kind of like nursery or daycare because of the pandemic, really. So he was at home with us like full time till he was about four and a half. And up until that point, our life was, as you said, like our kids would go to bed late, like they would go to sleep 10, 11 o'clock at night, um, because I didn't want to get up at 6 o'clock. I wanted them to get up like at 8 or 9, like a decent human hour of the day. And then he started going to school and he had to get up at 6 and I had to get up at 6 and drive him. Um, and
Once
yeah, for the
again,
time,
another institution not set up for specifically for someone like you.
or like so many people complain about the way that it all works. I'm like, why are we still sticking to these like farm hours? Because that's what it is, right? It's like get up and milk the cows before you go to school. Who's doing that? You know, please. Let's all agree on 9 o'clock in the morning. Um, so all of a sudden, like are working a lot and certainly after COVID, we came out after COVID and any like nearly any job that was going, we were taking. So it was very lucky in the sense that we did have a lot of work, which sometimes meant 6 or 7 shows a week. And even though the gigs are like earlier than they used to be, it used to be like nightclub style, now it's restaurant style, but a lot of times we're playing till 11, sometimes midnight. So by the time we drive home, I'm going to take off my makeup and, change a diaper or take the one who's potty training to pee and all of this kind of stuff. It was often 2 before I'm asleep. And so yeah, having to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning every day, apparently that's not a lot of sleep. And it was the single most difficult shift in our lives, other than going from having one child to having two, because that was massive and a complete overhaul. Having a child in school, where now for the first time, really like for Felix and I, the first time in 16 years that we had to get up with an alarm because before that we worked at night all the time and then we had kids and the kids were our alarm. And now it was like, no, 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 I have to be up. We have to be in the car at 7 in the morning. Um, and it basically just, and he started school. And of course, like coming out of COVID and everything, like it was just like, oh, germs again, that we're actually like interacting with people and other kids, whereas we've been just like in our tiny bubble for a couple of years. So I got sick, like physically sick, and was just sick for about 4 months. Like I would have like 1, 2 days between colds, and then I'm like, oh, no, it's bronchitis. Then I'm gonna flip that into a sinus infection. And then it's just, and I mean, a couple episodes where I like, you know, went to the clinic, like really, I mean, I probably should have gone to emergency room. Like I was in serious distress. And um getting calls to like I had a sinus infection where literally they called, they were like, "Are you okay?" This is the nurse calling with my results. I'm like, "I don't know. You're the one with the paper." And she's like, "I'm looking at it. It doesn't seem like you're okay." I'm like, "I'm not okay. I feel terrible." And it was just like, "Okay, get all these drugs, get all the drugs." So I took all the drugs of everything for like 4 months. And then actually started I was like miserable. I was miserable to my kids. I was definitely miserable to my husband. I was still going to work every, 6 nights a week and struggling my way through that. Like I was having a hard time having conversations with people just because I was just like shattered inside and so, so unwell, just physically
Literally,
unwell.
let me remind you, front runner of a band, like singing the front center stage. This isn't like, oh, I have to be on because I'm in an office, not to negate, belittle that, but like I'm talking about like literally
People are watching me.
everyone watching her at this. Like I know this, and also I'm still like I cannot get over it. So yeah, that is the level we're speaking to right now.
Yeah, with like massive sinus pain and all, yeah, feeling like my insides are like churning. And also too getting answers from doctors like, I don't know why you keep getting sick. We're running tests and it's okay, well, and then they give your helpful advice like you should get more rest. I'm like, well, you should come and take care of my kids then because how am I and drive them to school because that is how I don't have rest. Um, and and my work, and it just really got to a point where I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think that I can, um, continue to perform certainly these kind of gigs, which are really kind of all that there is here, um, and have to get up at 6 in the morning. And so my question was really like, is this it? Like, did I have a good run? I did 16 years of being a full-time musician. It's been great, but now I have children in school who are going to be in school for now, like the next, what, 12, 14, 15 years, whatever it works out to with the two of them. Um, and and that's it. Like, I'm just going to have to call it a day because I'm like, I felt like the like I was I just kept feeling like I feel like I'm made of glass, like the teeniest, thinnest, most fragile glass. And if anybody looks at me sideways, I will just like shatter into a million shards. Um, and it's so weird. Like, people want to talk to people. I could see they would even want to be giving me compliments. And I would literally like avoid eye contact and hurry out the door. I was like, I can't handle anything. Like, and I know that that's part of my job. And so I really had to sit with myself and be like, okay, are you just done? Like, do you just not like this anymore? Is it all over? And um, the answer was, there were some of my gigs that I liked and where I felt fulfilled, and there were some that were not fulfilling and that were not working for me. And so kind of, and there's not really much you can do to like change that from your end. It sort of is what it is. And so um, there were ones that we dropped. It was a really hard conversations to have too with Felix because um, like we were working as a duo mostly. So I'm like, well, you're my business partner also, and here I am making this decision which would impact you massively, as in like I'm quitting the band, but that's just you and me. So what does that mean? um and I can't remember where I came across it. This is also too when I started listening to podcasts. I didn't get podcasts. I'm like, it's like the radio, but I don't didn't listen to the radio before. Anyhow, and I was actually interviewed on Art of Being a Mom podcast, which you were also interviewed on, which is how I found you.
Yes, I always forget this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Love
was
her.
like, who are some of the other guests who have been on? And like, so I was like, ooh, okay. Um, and so somewhere along the like beginning of my podcast journey, uh, again, finding these, seeking out like career mom, artist mom, like trying to get advice basically for where do I go from here? And one of the really good bits of advice I heard was, ask people in your life or think about the things that you like to do when you were a kid, like what brought you joy. And so one of those things was dancing. So I signed up for some like, even though I haven't danced in a long time, but I signed up like for some movement classes with a dance teacher and did them one-on-one because I was like, I can't do a class with people looking at me. No one else cares. You know what I mean? But that was just like my frame of mind. Um, and then coming to you and finding your, I mean, your everything, that I'm like, just totally drank the Bianca Kool-Aid, like whatever you have, I'm buying it. But, but
My
certainly,
favorite, wait, I'm interrupting. My favorite is when I got an email when I launched my first ever course specifically for photographers, and you enrolled a conscious creator. And you're like, I know you might be thinking, oh, did Janelle suddenly change career? But it's just like the biggest gift ever because I had so much resistance to create something for photographers. And I'm like, this is why. This is why. I can't not have someone like this.
maybe you won't let me in, but hear me out. Like, I'm gonna sign up anyway. Um, doesn't make sense, but it's gonna make sense. It's gonna be fine. Yeah. Um, well, and one of the things was I was so angry all the time. So when you talk about being angry, yeah, totally get that. And angry at everybody and everything and every like institution and you know the man. And so feeling very ungrateful. And yet, there's that part of you, like the zoomed out part, which is going, but look at your life. You're a full-time musician. You have a career. Like I was still working, 5, 6 nights a week with your husband, who is an awesome musician and who you, in your moments, you remember that you used to like, and like, and you have these two beautiful, healthy children, and you live in this city that like people aspire to live in, and even these additional things, like you have an apartment with a sea view that we somehow managed to like scrape pennies together and like hang on to throughout COVID. And it's beautiful, and yet felt unable to appreciate anything and any of it. It was
But with
just,
the horrid awareness of it.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
not that's even worse when you're like, "No,
yeah.
I know, I see it, I understand it, and yet."
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, because then there's the should. You should be grateful. You should be out on your balcony appreciating the view. You should, you should look at your beautiful children. And I'm like, so I just want to watch Netflix for 5 hours and just be like brain dead, because I can't be here in any of this. And so I think that was what really called me to what you do, was the idea, was trying to find my way back to a place of gratitude and of actually being able to see the things in my life that I should be appreciating, you know? And it's so funny too. I think you used to have it even as like the intro of your podcast where you were saying, you don't need my permission to like take pictures. And I was like, oh no, but I totally did. So thank you for giving me permission to take photos. Because now I'm like, no, I can't just like take 9,000 photos of like my kids, in the bathtub or whatever, like a regular daily thing. Bianca said I could. So through that practice, oh my gosh, and something that I have never talked about with you, and I didn't even think of it until a few weeks ago, was when Theo was 1, and he's born at Christmas. So it was also December, which is always like super busy time for us. We have gigs every day, and it was the end of like my first year of motherhood, and was really hard. And um that December I did like a photo a day gratitude challenge for myself on Instagram. I've completely forgot that I did that until just recently. I was like, oh my gosh, I've also like, I had the idea once upon a time to like use photos to try to find my way back to seeing something.
Yeah, you
So
gravitate towards the photographic medium heavily. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's and so nostalgia now was perfect for me at that time, because it was um the permission and the platform and the structure to find that gratitude and to help me, find my way back to myself, through the months of doing that. And I like, when I look at the the kind of like the end of month projects that I, what do you call them, that I completed, like I can see my tone getting lighter. You know what I mean? Like I can feel the heaviness kind of like seeping away as the months went on, and as I felt more okay with the idea of, I think I think I can do this. Like I think I can still do this, but but I can't do it the way I used to. I can't just be, whenever someone picks up a phone and is like, "Can you guys work?" "Yep, definitely. We're coming." I had to start asking a lot more questions. I had to be choosier. I had to put our price up also, because when I would be places and I'm like, "I'm getting paid what to be here?" Um, that's definitely the thing about being a mom, is you always have something better to do, which is like just be with those little
Oh, so
lives.
better and more important, all the
Yeah,
time. All of a sudden,
yeah,
I remember going back to work and being in a meeting that I used to like ferociously be like super invested in. And I'm just like, we're all sitting here getting all worked up. I'm like, do you know this? Like, I'm sorry, we're not working in a hospital. This doesn't fucking matter. I mean, it does, and but it also doesn't. So let's all
yeah.
just take us. No one's birthing a baby. No one's dying here.
On
Like,
fire.
we're
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
And I remember first when you first joined, first of all, I was just so taken aback that like this person on the other side of the world, like that, so I was so fragile over anything that shared. You had shared the first time you shared, you posted in the Facebook group because
yeah.
time difference. And I remember crying. Like I was just so blown away by your just everything about your presence and like what you were voicing that wanting to do. And I even remember, it's funny, like, I don't know, a few months down the road, you integrating a picture where you're like, I'm wearing color. I'm wearing
Yeah.
color. But I think when we talk about reflecting on the tone of the image collages we would make at the end of the month, which we still do, they're in the platform too. Every month there's a new template. But I think I just wanted to pull that back to the full circle moment of like how we're so wanting to repel against um these labels and these boxes and
Mhm.
mother, woman artist and whatever. But I think that the photographic medium is this way where we're able to do that, like have that compartmentalizing of like, "Oh, I don't even know, but like for some reason the fact that I put these pictures together is like it identifies itself to me. It's like
Yeah.
I don't know, like it creates like this peace and this calm and this expression that happens when you're like, I don't know what the fuck's going out on inside, but all of a sudden I see it on the outside. Like that.
Yeah.
Like I can sense it. It might not be exact or words or whatever, but like this combination of photos creates this new feeling inside of me. And like you're able to like gauge and find yourself and track yourself in that. Like,
Mm.
so like in all the vulnerability and in that like thin glass feeling or in the feeling of lighter or in the dip or whatever it is, um, I do think that impulse to use photo taking as a way to find yourself again or feel yourself again, is because the only reason the photos exist is the fact that you took it and you're only able to see what you're seeing in that moment. So even though you feel like super ungrateful at the forefront, you're like, well, I took those pictures and
Right.
that it's irrefutable evidence. I saw it
Yeah.
and enough to press that button. I took out my phone and I pressed that button, and that
Yeah.
means something. So it's like it restores your faith in yourself and your trust in yourself because you're like, yeah, I feel really shitty and evil right now, but look at
Yeah.
this evidence. Like, look at this me caring, even if it's with gritted teeth.
Exactly. I did see something nice. This flower. Yeah. Damn it. Well, and I think the idea of like when you see, I mean, certainly for us, average Joes, like the taking a picture is just they're kind of like one at a time, right? Like you take it and then also too, like we've been talking about forgetting, and then you forget that you took it. So the idea of looping around back to it, like at the end of a month, and making a collage of a few photos, um, I think also allows you to step back and go like, well, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Like, what's the story of me really this month? And I mean, one of the ones for me that was super impactful was I can't remember what I can't remember what I was supposed to be doing, but what I came to was I'd really had like a month of thinking about my dad a lot. My dad who died almost 30 years ago now. Um, and so I was sort of, looking for like evidence of my dad. And my dad was a photographer in our family. And that month, when I went through my camera roll, I was like, there were photos of my kids and photos of food and photos of flowers and photos of like animals because we'd taken them to a petting zoo. And I was like, this was what our family albums had in it when I was a kid, was like goats and kids and birthday cakes and his garden. I was like, this literally could be my dad's camera roll, but it's mine. So then feeling that connection and connection to him. And it was really, really powerful to have that experience, and to feel that connection in a way which I don't think I had thought of myself as having that role necessarily, like in our lives. Yeah, that was awesome.
So where does that bring you now in today? So you it seems like with that more intentional introspection, like there's always introspection, but like with now having like this modality, right? Like, okay, I'm using these pictures, I'm feeling like more, I'm lifting a little bit, getting lighter. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. Now I'm starting to have this energy and a little bit more bandwidth to like consider my art again in a different way, not just in a survival mode, but in I guess conscious creator when you were like, well, what is it? My vision, like what do I want to be doing and blah blah blah. So if you could speak to a little bit more about how now you're coming from it at this new place, maybe we're not skipping through fields in Switzerland like flowers and like bursting with energy, but
Hills are alive.
perhaps not as thin glass. And what does that look like and how, because really what we're continuing to share is nothing are I mean, although logistics morph and change according to like your kid's age and phase they're going through and like whatever different school or events whatever happen, still we're still in the same seat. Right. So what feels different now and what is the focus right now?
Well, one of the things that I learned about myself through nostalgia now, and then the through line even more through conscious creator, um, was and is just how important the preservation of these memories is to me. Um, I think certainly nowadays, like moms are the ones taking the pictures, right? That moms don't have pictures, the kids don't have pictures of themselves. Uh, so initially, I had just sort of taken it as that, like, okay, well, I'm just like every other North American mom, I'm the one with the camera. Um, but I've come to realize, no, for me, it actually goes deeper than that, and it is this sense of needing to preserve the story of what has happened. So, that's why I love those collages and nostalgia. And I'm like, okay, because then I see the story of this month. And that for me, in my own work, it's also made me realize that that is the most important thing. And like I've known that for a long time. I'm not at all a technical singer. Um, what I love about songs, I love the words. I love the story. The songs that touch me the most are the ones where there's the feelings and the story. Um, and now, if I want to offer that to an audience, then I've been able to like zoom out of it to see what else does that mean in terms of the performance, and right now, and what else does that mean in terms of my like offerings, because that's the place that I'm at now, whereas a year and a half I was still like kind of trucking along with the, okay, we're going to go out as many nights as I can handle, a week, which is probably not 7 but maybe 4 still, and just do these kind of like restaurant gigs, and there are ones that I like and I still enjoy. But the thing that is missing about those is really being able to connect with an audience, because for the most part, we're just like beautiful ambience, you know? Um, that's okay. But it's hard when I only have that. So now actually we're moving into doing a lot more work in private events. Um, so some corporate, which is just like whatever networking or your annual Christmas party or whatever. Um, but the ones that I'm finding a really, really enjoy are where people are having us in their homes. So we're playing in people's living rooms and we're doing like engagement parties and weddings and birthday parties. And it is a very different gig. And it's one that actually that I know I couldn't have done years ago when I was in like my badass, small dude like vibe because I wouldn't have understood why I was there. I would have thought like, well, no, you hired me to sing. I just need to get up here and sing. And now I realize, no, you haven't. You've hired me to make you feel a certain way. So, um, so that's the mom piece, that I get to because I think too when you have, um, I was thinking about it just earlier today of how um, with kids, like especially kids who are small and often completely illogical. And you know what it is like the thing they're crying about is not the thing, right? And so that has been of me to learn and to figure out how to deal with and just kind of go like, okay, it's not about the lost Pokemon card. What are we actually talking about here, right? Like, Um, and that actually with clients, it's that like where I'll have somebody calling me for like the 17th time maybe to ask about the equipment that we're bringing. And I'm like, it's not the equipment. Like, okay, where is the nervousness here? Um, it's people need to be dealt with really differently. And it's different when people are spending their own money. You're not being hired by a restaurant or you're not being hired by a hotel or a corporation. People put their own hand in their pocket, right? To bring me to their home. And so there's a real intimacy there and a real trust that they are giving me, which requires like the utmost care. And I feel prepared to do that now. And I think that's too that's why I keep mom in my bio, you know. Um, like even we laugh about how we played a gig or like first overseas gig in Pakistan at the beginning of the year for this woman had hired us to play her mom's 70th birthday. So Felix and I and one of our friends, we have like movie style disastrous travel to get there, kind of, you know, just delayed planes and fog, and we land in the wrong city and have go by car the next day and arrive at the gig like half an hour after it was supposed to
The
start.
writers would be like, this is too heavy handed. We gotta take
Exactly.
this out of the script. It's no one's gonna believe it.
Nobody's gonna believe this. Yeah, it was that. So it's us kind of like running to the stage from the car kind of a thing. And we get there and we just sort of get changed and hop on stage. And the birthday girl who's 70, she was like, no, no, no. Oh no, you are not gonna play. You're gonna eat. You're gonna eat. And we're like, no, we're fine. And she was like, nope, make them all a plate. They all have to eat. And I was like, I get this. Like, mom to mom now, I get this, that you need to make sure that we're taken care of, and then we can all move on with our day. And then also too, like, I'm in a place where I can also accept that and be like, I know nobody's hungry, but get off stage. Like, mom wants us to eat. So everybody sit, eat something. She's
Birthday
not
girl
comfortable.
said so.
Birthday girl said eat. So
She will not be able to enjoy us if she's sitting there thinking that we are in discomfort, which is a
it's
beautiful thing in itself. And
it's
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my
So it
gosh.
was it was awesome. So that's where I am now. That's where I'm trying to take my business now, also. Like now that I know this and I feel this, what needs to change about the way that I'm putting myself out into the world and I'm representing myself and the places that I'm, you know, representing myself. So, yeah, so that's what I've spent my last weeks doing is kind of like revamping my website and starting a newsletter because I'm trying to have more big surprise, like more long form, meaningful communication with people. Because, yeah, like Instagram captions, I think are not cutting it for me at this moment. So that's me and what's coming next.
I think that it's so interesting the way. So I, for so long, as you know, have been doing so many solo episodes. I've peppered in guests here and there, but I've really been on a run of solo. And the last few that I've recorded with people, it's almost like it's like so random, but also seems like interconnected, and they all kind of like beckon back to the one before. And
Mm,
we're talking about the thing is not the thing. It's like it's like such an inherent knowing and such an inherent recognition, especially as a mother. And like when you see your kid, and I say that because we mentioned this on the last one, me and my friend Steph, and we are so tolerant and able to see what is going on underneath when our kid is struggling, right? So it's just now being able to turn that on ourselves and just always default to that. It's like the thing is not the thing. Like when you said, even if you know they were coming up to say something beautiful or nice to you, you're like, I just can't even handle it. Like, what is this? What is this
yeah.
thing? Yesterday or the day before? Yesterday, I came home and I told Ben that I was on the verge of tears because I had got my first pedicure, and I can't even tell you how long, a disgusting amount of time. Like, I mean, I don't ever do that. And I like splurge because it's just been on my mind. It's been annoying me. And we're going on a family trip to the beach next week. And it was just terrible. It was, I could have done a better job myself. And I was like, I really feel like I'm going to cry. And he goes, about toenails? And I'm like, it's not the fucking toenails. Not about the toenails.
On the toenails. Yeah.
It's like everything except the toenails. And I think that when you are able to honor that for yourself and in see that, and not only see that but like move into that, because I think we have so much we knowing, this deep knowing, and so far before we're able to act in it or with it or be with it, because there's so many times where, I mean, you pick a fight with your partner and you're like, I know it's not about this. I know it's not, but like, I can't stop clinging to this. And I can't, like, whether it's ego or my whatever, I can't like release this and talk about what's really going on because it's too vulnerable or it's too whatever, you know, when you're able to succumb to what's really going on and to be like honest with yourself and in these interactions, it's only then when you're able to like, okay, let's sit down, let's get off stage and let's just eat. It's not about being like, no, I said this, I am here,
Yeah.
and by God, we're gonna do it, and it's fine. No, we're fine. We don't need to be taken care of. It's not
Exactly.
about that. I remember one time you told me, um, there was someone, and it was like they were out. It was out though. It was at one of the big performances, not a private thing, and it was someone's birthday, and they had come over and said something, or they were singing every word or something, and you just had this like recognition of like this is a memory point for her. Like this night,
Mm,
like like whether or not she remembers specifically me, but like it's not even about exactly what song we did, but it happened to be like that song that you did was important to her or something. Do you remember this story? It was like a meaningful song and she was touched or I don't know, something like that. And you
mm,
were like, oh, I have this knowing that like this is like a story for her that will be
yeah.
told, and this is something that will remain. And so it becomes way less about like, did I check off this box? Did people enjoy themselves and clap? Okay, on to the next thing. It's like, no, I have this knowing that like more so than hitting every note, more so than like being perfect, this energy to be honored like for this
Yeah.
space is like what's happening here. And moreover, your energy and like what you're getting from or like thriving with in the gigs you choose, in the way you set up your life, in the way you introduce yourself and set this precedence for like this is how I will be worked with, like not
Yeah.
12 a.m. texts, like I won't get
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And having that level of reverence for yourself and for your life and the life that you want to live. Like, I think that that's what helps. It's not easy. I don't think it can't be easy, but it's not always going to be easy. This balance of like, I know that this time in my child's life is like, what is it, 10-15% of like your life with your child?
Right.
It's so
Yeah.
tiny. So it makes you
Yeah.
feel like, oh, I should put everything away. But only if, yeah, this isn't as important and this feels right to put this focus on them, or no, I will hold resentment. This is important. And I'm not going to be ashamed that this feels so important that I can't put it down for 10 years.
Right.
I want to. And that's just as valid. And it doesn't mean that you're, less of a mother. It doesn't mean that. It just means this beautiful example of how you can hold both, because you want your
Yeah.
child to be able to do that as well. I don't, and this overcorrection that can happen. Like you talked about how, the small man, no, I will be the toughest man in the room, even if I'm the only woman in the room. Um,
Exactly.
and then feeling like all of a sudden you can be shattered with just like a kind word or a nod. And now there's this mesh in the middle of it still sucks some days and it's still this and it's still that. But there's this capacity to hold both of it and all of it. There's a requirement to hold all of it and both of it in some very real ways. But also, when you know that there's the capacity to, you come at it with like this deeper sense of like trust, when you know you can trust yourself to take care of yourself too. Like you literally had to be like, time out.
Yeah.
Like your life kept going, you kept like fulfilling your responsibilities, but also there was a very real part of you that made space for you. And you're like, nope, I don't know what the fuck this weird nostalgia now thing is. I'm going to do that. I don't know why, but I'm going to do dance classes one on one. Like, this is
Which
like
is
what I
weird.
need. And I'm taking
Right.
it really seriously right now because there is no other option. And it's so funny because it just works. Like I think about when COVID, all of a sudden the world had a hall pass. Like if you were sick, oh, so and so's out for 7 days. Meanwhile, we
Right.
live our whole 30-40 years of life being like, no, I committed to this, I
Yeah.
can't not, even if I'm sick. But now all of a sudden, because everyone else in the world um is on the same page, then we feel like permission that we can. It's just
Yeah.
harder when you have to be the one that is like, there's no one else behind me to say, like, but everyone else is doing it. No, we have to be the one that's going to stand up for ourselves and our desires and our, well,
Not the Christmas Christmas shake was the last one.
what?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Now it's time for fun.
Now it's time for fun.
Yeah.
You want to say hi?
Hey.
Well,
Hi.
guess what? I have about 10 more minutes left, and then it's time for fun. And we're going to go do something. Okay?
Okay.
I love you. I'll be right up. 10 minutes. Can you go upstairs and close the door, please? And then mommy will be done.
I'll just be quiet.
I know, baby, but I'm recording something, so you can't play in here because it'll be too loud. Definitely keeping that in.
He's such a big kid. It's
He's so
crazy.
big. I know. He'll be 6 in August. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's just, and like you just feel like a complete, I feel like a complete psychopath. Like I have these moments, especially when I'm like down here in my basement, like having this, and I can feel myself leaning so far into like, oh yes, all I want to do is just be in conversation like this all the time. And then he comes down and I get that agitation. I'm like, oh God, okay, yes, it's coming. I know it's about time. And then I just like look into his eyeballs and like the genuine, like we call him like the boy Tinkerbell. He is just like a little Tinkerbell. He's so much like sparkle in his eye and then like bleeding hearts of the world. Like he is just, and now he's in this phase where I love it. Not only does he talk with his hands, but he says literally, like, when they start saying big words and they think they're so cool. It's so cute. And then you look at them for a second and you're like, it's like I feel like I fight so much to hold on, but this is so important to me. And then you look at them
Yeah.
and that actually doesn't matter either, you know?
Right.
And that it's just like these choppy waters of like, oh my gosh, what is that quote? Um, if you don't become the water, you'll be seasick forever or something. So it's just
Mm,
like it's natural for us to want to make meaning of like all of these life experiences and all of it, right? Like this is like the NLP training coming neuro linguistic programming that comes in. It's like, yes, we want to assign meaning and it's beautiful to view things symbolically and have this desire to create and make something, and it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive either way, and it doesn't have to always, when you decide something or make something, it doesn't have to be the hill you die on. Like it can be both, it can be everything, and allowing for those choppy waters that is like life as a woman, as a mother, as an artist, as an entrepreneur that's wanting to make a living. I hate even this, we shouldn't even say that anymore because it just doesn't make sense the way that's phrased. But to create income through what is your
right.
passion and your talent and your whatever. Um it's so complex and it's also so simple. Like the purity of intent and the love and like where it originated and where it continues to live despite it's like this flame that won't go out. God damn it. It's like that
Yeah.
purple, it's still there. Um, like it's okay. Like some days, like maybe I am, full time, just being with it. I don't know. I'm about to head into a whole summer of just the two of them full time. And then I'll be traveling for work. And,
Right.
you know, how do I be with both of it? And I think honestly, the biggest thing is to just take down these walls of, I'm not doing this 100%. I'm not doing this 100%. I'm not doing like let's just take the language out of. But we're still, the weird thing is we're still doing what we've always done. Like you're still doing like gigs, but you're just being in it differently. You're still working with other people, but it just feels different because like you're experiencing and seeing different things in these interactions, like with your clients or with the bandmates or with what your understanding is of what you are there to provide in general.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the things that's really helping me is trying to hold all of it more loosely, you know, which was absolutely not me before. Like I had a death grip on my life, and the world only turned because I was cranking it all the time. I was convinced of that. You know what I mean? So, um, that's the bit too where I think having a baby like knocks you on your ass because like actually having the baby, because when I was pregnant I was like, no, I'm still going to do everything, I would be like lifting heavy furniture and whatever, and I got it. But then actually having a baby where you're, you know especially, I mean, I don't know, especially, but for me certainly, like I breastfed exclusively,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like that, it's just like I literally have to let go of so many things because I have to keep you alive. In that moment, I felt like there's no one else but me who can
Yeah.
do this. So,
Yeah.
um, so that's kind of like the beginning of everything having to change. And I was so angry about having to let things go and not being
Mm.
able to just like keep everything that I wanted to stay exactly the same the way I
Mm.
wanted it. If I just hold on tightly enough, nothing will change.
Mm.
And then when I couldn't and it changed, it might have changed anyway, regardless of whether or not I had a baby. You know what I mean? But it felt like failing then.
Uh-huh.
Um, and now I think after having seen two small humans change
Yeah.
so much all the time,
Yeah.
and like especially like in those first few months and that first year of life, like it's always changing. You figure it out, you think you know what you're doing, and 36 hours later, none of it works anymore because they have moved on. Like we're not doing that anymore. So it's just, I'm like, no, no, no. I felt like a little bit like I was hitting a plateau and
Yeah.
I'm cruising now. No, no, you
Nope.
don't.
Yeah.
So it definitely made me, I don't know, more comfortable with change, but like accept how real change is and how much things are changing all the time. And like, of course, as the kids get older, the change slower. And with adults, we change more slowly. But I'm able to hang on to gigs more loosely. The ones that I'm not like crazy about and the ones that I love. Like I just know this will end. And 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 I need to be okay. You know, like I'm trying to define myself less by those external
Yeah.
factors. And certainly having kids has helped me with that. And even in your kids, right? Like you
Mm.
can't define yourself by your kids because you know that they will go at some point,
Yeah.
which is like
My
some days you can't
identity,
wait for it to happen.
I think
But
that's huge. It's like my identity, like you're like, my identity isn't swallowed by this gig anymore. But
yeah,
also, I don't want to be swallowed by motherhood, but also I want to swallow my kids.
yeah,
I just
yeah,
like, I don't want to eat you.
yeah,
But yeah, and I got this very strong visual when you're like, yeah, when I was breastfeeding, I'm like, I am the only one who can do this for this person right now. But what's so beautiful about that, for me, there's part of that that feels like extremely claustrophobic. And I'm like, but it's also like, if you really look at that, it necessitates a a self-care. I think that you can really easily feel that and see that and be like, and I must give all of myself to you. But like, if there's nothing else to give, like the oxygen mask, I mean, hello,
right,
it's like,
yeah,
I must care for myself, because not only is that like, because if I'm not physically well, I can't do stuff for you, but it's like your wellness it is dependent on my wellness too.
yeah,
So if you can't, if you are not at that point yet where you naturally want to prioritize yourself for yourself, like I get that, like then do it for them. I feel like they could be a really beautiful entryway. It's like what a gateway drug. They're the pot of self-care. They're weed. You know what I mean? Like it's like if you're not at that point of like self-love or of whatever, that you're like, I don't have a big enough incentive to do if
yeah,
it's not for someone else's benefit, then sure, use them as the excuse, because so much more than anything you can teach them or do for them, they just drink your energy and they just feel like so much earlier than you think, so much more than you think. Like it's just absolutely incredible what the things that my son takes in of me, that I'm like, oh my gosh, it shocks me.
mm,
Both like good and I won't say bad, but like, oh my gosh, like,
less flattering. Yeah.
like holy moly. Um, so yeah, yeah.
And I think that's very much the place where like 18 months ago where I was at when I was so unwell and feeling like I don't know if I can do this job anymore. I
Hmm.
was like, okay, I'm mom and certainly the like administrator of our family life,
Hmm.
Um, and at work with Felix and I, like I'm the one who finds all the gigs and I'm the one who maintains the gigs and maintains those like professional relationships. So if am now going to shatter like a little, delicate Ming vase and not be available for any of that, the family falls apart, our work falls apart, literally our life here will disintegrate because there's no kind of like social safety net here. We don't have family here. Like if we can't work and pay for our apartment, we have to like leave the country. You know what I mean? And so it was literally like everything was at stake, and there was no option of, well, I'm just gonna go like to my mom's and like, sleep on a like in her basement in the dark for 2 weeks. No, I didn't have that. Um, I had to keep going and I had to figure it out.
And also, what you've shared with me, a way of figuring it out. So even though there is no um like cushion there,
Yeah,
you've shared that more recently-ish that you and your partner have also looked at delegating stuff, re-looked at responsibilities and redefined what space looks like for you, what bandwidth looks like for you. Because I don't want anyone listening to this being like, oh, she just bootstrapped it and did it all and never no, like
no, no, no.
the way that you did that also had to do with you advocating, like, let me be honest about what I need in order to keep doing this.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So what you're referencing is we started using the fair play system, which we certainly didn't like go down the rabbit hole fully, which I would have been fine with, but I wanted him to still be cooperative about this, but it was a reconfiguring of basically like all the tasks that need to be done in family life. Whereas, yeah, I felt that I was doing way too many of them. And, or put it this way, so many of them that there was not enough space for me to rest, that there's not enough space for me to create, there's not enough space for me to even do like administrative work. Like I just always felt there's another load of laundry that needs to be
Mm.
done
And
about everything.
also in an unseen way. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that is a huge unlock because it can be so easy to feel like resentment or anger or like I just can't even trust you to do it this way because you don't understand the right way or what's actually going on. It's like it requires us to be seen in a way of like, listen, this is in order to get this grocery list done or taken care of, I am like, I can't even begin to break it down right now. It's like there's so much. It's like, what did I hear about cassava flour now is actually grown in a way that's not healthy? And then I'm actually doing gluten free right now. And it's like, oh, I realized the other day when you came down for a snack at lunch, you work from home, you looked really disappointed at what was in the pantry. And I want you to eat healthy, but I want you to eat something you like. But it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
you need to understand everything specificity. It's like really not blanket statement saying I'm overwhelmed. Well, if that's all you have, that's all you have to say. And, obviously we all know that when you don't have anything left to give, there's no words. But like also when it's time to go into, okay, action and productivity, it's like, let me break down for you what it looks like for me to do this and how this amount of space is not ample for that and how these two tasks aren't balanced or how blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. Like I have to be so honest and specific. And I do find that in doing that, it's usually met with so much grace and recognition and like willingness, right, to help. It's just sometimes our partners, at least for me, and I think what you've said that is have a very different brain, like just way
Yeah.
more laid back, way more, which is beautiful to be balanced with,
God
but
bless
also
them.
can exacerbate our hypervigilance.
Yeah.
So I think to go into whatever it is, whether it's like like a system or just going into something with the intentionality of like, wait, I need to be fully seen for what's happening
Yeah.
here in order not to justify myself, but to help illustrate and like paint this full picture so that you can actually get the help you need and not just be like, fuck, it's just too hard to explain
Yeah.
it. I'm just gonna keep doing it.
Well, and that's one of the things I really loved about the system is it brought up all these things which I was like, "Oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I do that." Things like sunscreen. Like sunscreen is not just about like whose job it is to worry about putting it on the kid. It's about checking at the beginning of the summer. Is the sunscreen still good? Is anybody allergic to this? Okay, you won't wear anything more than 30, but I don't want anything less than 50. So we need to have different ones and we need to have the kids ones. This, but I mean, like it's a huge thing. Um, and I never would have put that on my list of tasks, but it was on my list of tasks, you know?
Oh, it pops
And
up like this. I was at a barbecue the other day and someone had a different kind and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got this from the blah 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 website that knows whether or not this." I'm like, "What? I don't know about that website." Oh no. I've never heard of that website. This is expensive. I thought this was a good one. Oh my God. Now and then all of a sudden that pops up as my priority. It's
exactly, watch for this ingredient and this website, and I need to find a coupon because it's super expensive. And like, yes, all these things. And one of the things too I really love about this system is that when something is not my job anymore, her thing is it's what CPE, so conception, planning, and execution. Because I found that too, that I was kind of being asked, like, oh, well, just make me a list. I want to help. I'm like, but the list making and the remembering and then the checking to see if you did it is not really alleviating, giving me more space, you know? And so this is something like one of the things that's been really good. I'm like, cats, that's just gonna be on you. So now I don't have to worry about whether or not there's cat food or cat litter. If the cat is like screaming their head off because it's all gone, I guess you are going to the 24-hour grocery store and getting some cat food. And it's just, I'll just put on my earplugs and go to bed. Like it's not on me, you know? Um, and so then also too, and then you literally have to take that off that's the other step, is then you actually have to release ownership of this task in the way that you've divided task. And I find it's really made a big change too, because also my own head, the things that I would walk around at the house and like swear about to myself, like, why can't anybody else do the laundry properly? Why does anybody else, because I mean, it's my husband, but then also we have a nanny who helps out with like these kind of tasks. And now when I walk around, I just go, no, no one else does this properly because it's my task, because it's my thing, because I'm the one who cares most that things are all folded exactly the same way and that, whatever. So that too is like, I'm not doing any less laundry, but I'm feeling much less shitty about it because I'm just like, no, this is just one of the things that I have on my list, and you've got stuff on your list. And you don't need to worry about this, and I don't need to worry about the cats,
my gosh, there's the
So
realness involved in that. I'm not doing any less this. It's just I'm feeling way less shitty about it. Like, oh,
yeah.
goals. Like just like, oh my God. Like there's such a realness with that. It's like, I feel like there's so many opportunities for someone to be like, well, it must be nice to be able to blah, 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 blah in any conversation. But when you're like, no, the reality is there's still a very similar amount of work, but like the mindset the mind shit the mindset shift the mindset
Exactly.
shift has just opened up space, and that's unquantifiable, and that's just
Yeah.
amazing, so important. And this like what you just went into about like the nitty gritty of like how it looked like for you and like what those tasks and like the cat litter, like these are the details that are so important because it makes it real. And it's not like these like wishy-washy, like just be positive and think and be just breathe. Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh
Yeah.
wait, okay,
Not
this is what it
helpful.
looks like. That's helpful.
Yeah.
um, I could talk to you forever and ever, as you know. And now I hear what sounds like furniture moving above me. So I will wrap this up, but I want to know, is there anything else that is you feel like is like an itch, like still that something you wanted to share? Or is there any way that listeners can go and find you and your magic, especially now that you're doing newsletters now?
Yes, please. Well, there's like a million itches, but as you know, we could have like a 9 hour,
We itchy.
we itchy. Should be sponsored by Benadryl. We're so itchy. Um, yeah, but for today, we'll leave it there.
Leave it there.
Yes, people can definitely check me out at ladyjmusic.com and sign up for the newsletter. There's a newsletter, and I'm sharing what we do about gigs, our new offerings. I have like new offerings. I'm trying out new stuff. So check it out. And also just things that I recommend that I like. And so I'm
Oh
going
my
to be trying to do
gosh.
more of those. So stuff like fair play system. Yeah, everything like
That
it.
anything Janelle has recommended for my kids have become the obsession of the house for at least a month. So, like,
Howdy
no
tunes.
Howdy Tunes, like this
Howdy tunes.
kid podcast, which I would have never even thought to look up. I'm like, yeah, they're listening to my stuff, of course. We're actually going on a road trip, so that's going to be really helpful. So yeah, and I mean, what a full circle moment to talk about how, yeah, my new newsletter and the new things I'm working on are not only my art and my craft and my singing and my gigs, but it's also my Rex. I did this research. I put all this effort into this is my life with my kids. Why wouldn't I just share it with other people? Thank you.
Yes. Your life also needs to be taken over by dinosaur heavy metal
Yes.
songs.
Yes. Yes. You'll curse her a little bit, but be overwhelmingly relieved to have found something like this. I was dreaming Howdy Tunes. Oh, thank you, Janelle. Thank you. Thank you. I love
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
I love you.
This has been an Awkward Sage production.